Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening for this Heart Healthy Month webinar. Heart disease is the #1 killer of men and women and can have a significant link to COVID-19. The good news is that we can personally commit to taking care of our bodies and become healthier. District 8 has many jewels, history, diversity, and gifted individuals. Our distinguished speakers are a part of our medical and health community, whom I'm very proud of. Grab a pen and pad to take notes. We will be given information that can help us take charge in improving our own health. We will hear presentations from our 4 speakers. Those 4 speakers are Dr. Felton Anderson, Dr. Hilary Washington, Shakiera Hockaday-Bey, and Eunmee Shim. So with that being said, I would like to introduce our first speaker. We will also have questions and answers at the end. So please take good notes and feel free to ask any questions. Eunmee Shim is the president of Adventist Healthcare Fort Washington Medical Center and president of Ambulatory Networks for Adventist Healthcare, where she oversees the urgent care and imaging centers. The hospital joined the Adventist healthcare system just over a year ago. And since then, Eunmee has been working around the clock in the community to help reshape the healthcare landscape in our area. Eunmee holds a Master of Science in Nursing Informatics from Columbia University School of Nursing, as well as a Bachelor of Science in Nursing from Shamyuk University in Seoul, Korea. Prior to making Southern Prince George's County her professional home, Eunmee worked in many other capacities within the Adventist system, such as serving as Chief Strategy Officer and Chief Operating Officer. In addition, Eunmee has worked at hospitals in New York and Florida, and she currently serves on the board of Loma Linda University in California. I've had the opportunity to work with Eunmee in a few initiatives, and I'm looking forward to being part of her future plans to expand healthcare resources in District 8. Please join me in welcoming Eunmee Shim.
Oh, thank you, Monique, for invitation and also very kind introduction of me. I'm going to share my screen and hoping that you can see it. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
That's great. So part of what I wanted to kind of share with the community is, what's been going on at the hospital, what we are doing to address some of the things that are happening, and what do we plan to do for the future. I think it's very important for us to understand what's happening, but also plan for the future to make sure that should there be another pandemic, God forbid, we will be ready to meet all the needs of the community right here in the community so that we don't have to really go out of the community to get what we need. So I wanted to start by sharing with you a couple different things. Sorry, I'm going to put the screen this down a little bit to make sure. Through Councilwoman Anderson Walker's support, actually she procured a program called, we do have a name for this and the name is escaping me, but it's a District 8 pharmacy program that we are providing for patients in the community who is coming through our emergency department or admitted to the hospital, who has chronic conditions, suffering illness that was brought on by COVID-19 as well, but don't have means to afford their long-term medication. This is one of the things in managing long-term health, that a lot of patients who can't afford the expensive medication around cardiac conditions or diabetes management, that they suffer. So she's been kind enough to secure funding for us to partner with Allentown Pharmacy as well as MECMO to provide medications for these patients. Today, since the program started last year, we have served about 20 residents. You may say, oh, that's a small number of people. But when you think about their long-term pharmaceutical needs, and oftentimes that's why they get readmitted to the hospital all the time, it is pretty remarkable. And we are grateful to partner with Councilwoman Anderson Walker on this one. Another thing that I wanted to kind of quickly share with you is we now have a primary care clinic at what we used to have urgent care center in on Indian Head Highway, right by old Fort Road. There are two providers working there, nurse practitioner as well as new provider that just joined a few weeks ago. Both of them are probably some of the best, primary care physicians you can meet out in the community. Not close to Dr. Washington. He's the best in the community, I think. But we try to find young and energetic people who are very committed to the community. So we are open for Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. And, you can just walk in or you can call for an appointment as well. As you know, at the same site, we are actually doing COVID-19 testing. We were also offering the vaccine as well, but I want to talk about testing a little bit. It's a free testing offered through the State Department of Health in relationship with the county. To date, we have tested 3,226 patients. We test Monday, Tuesday, and Friday from 7:30 to 11:30. I'm sorry, that's a.m. We don't have 11:30 p.m. hours. It's 11:30 a.m. You don't have to have an appointment. You just show up, and it's first come, first serve. And coming next week, we will be extending the hours to about 1:30 p.m. so we can take care of more patients. And soon we will also be able to offer antigen testing as well. So this is an ongoing effort to screen and test as many patients as we could. The vaccine at the same site on opposite days of testing days because of the traffic control that we have to do. We are vaccinating patients there, community residents there. So far, it's been in place about 2 weeks. We vaccinated about 600 residents. This is far short to the demand that we are hearing and seeing it out in the community. So we will be moving this clinic starting next week to Harmony Hall, where we can vaccinate up to 1,000 patients a day. And it is important for us to kind of share with all of you that you can sign up for this as long as you meet the criteria set out by the state guidelines. You will be able to get vaccinated. I think we have heard from the community that the spots are running out quickly. It is true. The minute we open up the registration slots, it goes out in probably about 5 to 10 minutes. So you have to be on a hypervigilant state to get a spot there. By increasing to 1,000 slots as supply permits, that's one of the things we've been challenged with. We believe that a lot more residents will be able to get the shots at the community versus having to drive all the way around the state to get it. So that is one of the things that we're working on. Another thing I want to point out is you may want to know what % of our employees at the hospital, because it's important to protect you, their family members, their coworkers are vaccinated. We have 68% of our employees vaccinated with the first dose right now. You may say, well, that doesn't sound like a lot. A lot of healthcare systems are not even reaching 50%. And our team, just like you may have, had a lot of concerns about this vaccine. But we had very honest, open, candid discussions about vaccine. So we became one of the highest vaccinated sites within our company, from the site that had the least amount of takers when we did the survey prior to starting to administer the vaccine. So many of them overcame their worries, their fears. They are very determined to protect you as a patient, their coworkers, their families at home as well. So they're steadily signing up, but I just thought that was very interesting for our employees, because I was very worried about them not taking. We did have town hall meetings around that, and we have shown great results. I now want to talk a little bit about what we see at the hospital. So we first started to test patients back in March 8th of last year, coming almost to a year. So this is a report through last week or this, I guess early this week. So total of 48 weeks of data. We have tested 5,172 patients. So we test all admitted patients and we test also highly suspected emergency room patients. And some of them do get to go home, but so the test is not for everybody. All admitted patients get tested. We also test suspected emergency room patients as well. Of those, 636 patients resulted positive. This gives about 12.3% positivity rate. And positivity rate is something we monitor very closely. It varies week to week, and it is also a pretty good precursor to what to expect in coming weeks. And we started to see some increase, as you may have heard of, around the holidays, starting with the Thanksgiving holidays, in positivity rate climb. Luckily, it has come down in mid-January after the holidays were over, but in the past 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, we're seeing it climbing back up. So again, we do watch very closely to see what's going on around our patients. This is kind of showing you week by week how it looks. Green is number of patients tested, red negative, and red is positive. And this is looking at raw data. So you can see we test a lot more patients than at the beginning, for one, right? And then we got higher test positivity rate around Thanksgiving. This is Christmas and New Year, kind of lasting a little bit. All right, looking at the same data as a percent, again, at the beginning, we had higher positive rate only because, let me see what I need to do to collapse this a little bit. I think this is getting in the way. Anyway, hold on just a second. If you look at the numbers here, so the red is positive, green is negative. At the beginning, we tested a lot less patients, so our positivity rate was much higher. Now, this is, against us looking at more patients being tested. Of those positive patients through February 6th of this year, 716 patients that we treated for being positive, 636 were diagnosed at the hospital, and 80 patients were presented with a positive already known test. So, and this is more recent, I think. In terms of looking at the zip code level to see where we are seeing, most positive patients, here you can see 20744, 20745, 20748. Those are some of the areas we see most of our patients from Fort Washington area being positive. These are some of what we call comorbidities. It's like underlying conditions or accompanying conditions to the COVID admissions. Many of them have hypertension, acute respiratory issues, renal disease that's chronic, diabetes, high cholesterol, and underlying cardiac disease. And unfortunately, with these comorbidities, their outcomes could be worse than those who are healthy. So it is also pretty consistent with other areas around the state and around the country. This also has impacted our overall length of stay for the patient. So this black line shows by month how long each and every patient on average stayed at the hospital. So in January 2019, they on average stay about 3.32 days. By March, somewhere around that number. But if you look at 2020, with the starting of COVID-19, they start to really jump up. Their stay became much longer. And by April, this is the time, I guess, we were having the most challenges. We knew we were getting patients. The treatment options were unknown to us, less known to us back then. Testing took much longer, so many patients were being kept at the hospital waiting for results for a week to 10 days, and that's what it is reflecting. Now, this is a different curve here. By this time, we know what to do when they come in with a certain symptoms, but because of severity of their presentation at the hospital, they're now staying much longer, and many of them too staying in ICU. So around this time in June of last year, we got our ICU modular unit with 16 ICU beds. Prior to that, we had only 4 beds. Now we are filling those ICU beds up to 12, and that's kind of what's happening here. So this much longer length of stay has to do with this intensive care unit days. So as you can see, we now are having much higher ICU census here. This is what really speaks to the demand of the community. These are the patients that we would have transferred out normally, sent them away to some other hospitals, and a lot of challenges for the family members. So we're very excited about this. And if anything, COVID-19 had taught us is to let us know that we have capacity issue. We need more beds. We need more permanent beds, not only in ICU, but more medical surgical beds. So guess what we're doing? We're planning to build a beautiful new hospital on campus here. And this is what it's going to look like when we are done. So I think that's it, Monique.
Well, fantastic, Eunmee. Appreciate that. I just want to put a cap on a couple of things and highlight the prescription assistance program. You had mentioned the comorbidities that you see as part of the challenge with people surviving COVID. Mm-hmm. Issues we're trying to address through their prescription assistance program that District 8 has partnered with Adventist Healthcare as well as federally qualified health center Greater Baton, so that people who are uninsured, are not well insured, or just need help with their copay, that they can afford to get the medications that they need to assure that they are maintaining and managing their underlying issues, so that if they are exposed to COVID-19, there's a better chance of surviving. So I just want to make that clear. And what we'll do is we'll bring that slide back up in a bit, just so that those of you who want that information can get that. But that partnership is with 2 of our local District 8 pharmacies, Mecmo Pharmacy and Allentown Discount Pharmacy. They deliver, which is helpful to people. Mm-hmm. They can mail, and of course you can always go there to pick up. They also have specialized in areas of HIV and diabetes. Exactly. Which is important in these dealing with the comorbidities. Add that it's been a pleasure certainly to work with you, and there's no question that we're entering a period where we might figure out how to control COVID, but chances are we're going into a chronic pandemic period where if it's not COVID, it's going to be something else. And we appreciate you, Eunmee, for being so forward thinking and looking at how to assure that we don't have a temporary setup, but that we have something that is permanent. And the beds is definitely the way to go. There's certainly been some benefits to COVID opening our eyes to these things. So thank you very much. We will have questions at the end, so please hold on to those. I do want to also mention that in transferring our patients, sometimes we lose our patients. There's risk in transfer. There's the not being able to be in proximity to one's home, the familiar setting, and that can cause internal stress, which could be more problematic to one surviving. So the importance of keeping people in their community through this expansion of the hospital, we very much appreciate you. Our next speaker, I'm very excited, and thank you so much, Eunmee, appreciate it. Our next speaker is Dr. Felton Anderson, And although I do want to claim him, he's actually not a relative, but he is
Almost, kind of, sort of.
he is an Anderson. And before we actually got on, we were speaking about some of the challenges that we're having in our community. And I just want to share this as we are in February Black History Month, and we've just celebrated Martin Luther King's birthday not too long ago. And this is one of his quotes: "Of all the forms of inequality, injustice in health is the most shocking and inhumane." And with that, Dr. Felton Anderson is going to speak to some of what he refers to as structural violence in our communities and how healthcare is handled. I want to introduce him. Dr. Felton Anderson has over 33 years of experience as a cardiologist and internal medicine specialist in District 8 and in Washington, D.C., treating illnesses such as heart disease through comprehensive care for your heart and cardiovascular system. Dr. Anderson is affiliated with Fort Washington Medical Center, and I should say Adventist Healthcare Fort Washington Medical Center, and MedStar Washington Hospital Center. Dr. Anderson graduated with honors from Morehouse School of Medicine in 1988. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Felton Anderson. I must say that you also went to USC, University of Southern California.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, but please join me in welcoming Dr. Felton Anderson.
Well, thank you for allowing me to even be present here to speak with the community and deliver a message. I'm going to talk on two different topics. Number one, cardiovascular disease and the Heart Health Month. As we know, cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of everyone in the population, and African Americans are overrepresented in this category. We suffer from heart attacks, hypertension, diabetes, hyperlipidemia, all of these, and strokes. All of these are vascular issues. Actually, diabetes is now considered a vascular, cardiovascular condition. And some of the latest medications that have been put out there, as Dr. Washington knows and everyone else, you probably heard of a medication called Farxiga or Jardiance. And these are the new medications that are out, and they are medications that allow you to eliminate glucose through the urinary tract. You urinate out glucose, and by doing this, you lose about 350 calories a day, and you end up losing about 5 to 6 pounds in a month. You can also end up lowering your blood pressure with that weight loss and the diuresis. But cardiovascular disease is a three-pronged process. You have hypertension. What is hypertension? That's the same as high blood pressure. And hypertension is just a hardening of the arteries or the vascular system trying to push blood through stiffened arteries or arteries that are not compliant and not elastic enough. So I tell my patients, hypertension can lead to congestive heart failure as well as cardiomyopathy or hypertensive heart disease. So imagine your blood pressure is 120/80. That's normal, but in our age group, 40 to 50, you're not going to get 120/80. You might be 135/75, but as long as that top number 140 is the top number, the blood pressure is 140 or less, that's perfect. That's optimum. So what blood pressure is to the heart is like what weights are to a bodybuilder. So you can say 120/80, 140/90, 170 over. As that blood pressure is working, the heart is working against the blood pressure, the heart will thicken just like a bodybuilder. But if you keep pushing hard enough and the blood pressure is too high, the heart will give out. You'll end up with shortness of breath, cardiomyopathy, and increased risk of heart attack. So that's what blood pressure does to the body, to the heart, and to the rest of the vascular system. Now you have high cholesterol. One thing that we don't tell everyone is that 40% of all heart attacks are patients with normal cholesterol. I'll say that again. 40% of all heart attacks are patients with normal cholesterol. How does that happen, Dr. Anderson? Well, heart attacks are not just cholesterol plaque buildup, but it's inflammation in the body as well. So the body can become inflamed with elevated blood pressure, stress, not exercising, and having a poor diet, and also being diabetic. I'll go back to diabetes later on. But the cholesterol, what now we're doing is we're lowering the cholesterol, we're getting it stable, but that plaque stability still can be disrupted due to inflammation. So what causes a heart attack and what is cholesterol in the artery? We've all seen those pictures of the cholesterol laying in the artery causing a blockage, that yellow plaque. But that's a plaque that's like a stone in a river. So that plaque, actually, to have a heart attack, it will rupture. So what causes a plaque to rupture is if you have a high fatty meal, high fat, high cholesterol meal, the body takes the cholesterol out of the bloodstream and it tries to put it into the plaque. If the plaque has a fibrous cap over it, what happens is that there's an enzyme that ruptures the plaque flips open in the blood vessel like a can opener. It causes a swirling of the blood as it goes by. Then the platelets aggregate around the plaque and occlude the blood vessel. That's why we have everyone taking baby aspirin, or you get a blood thinner when you're in the hospital to prevent heart attacks, because the heart attack is not just the cholesterol plaque, but it's the rupture of the plaque. So that's one reason to cause a heart attack. But all heart attacks, not chest pain. Chest pain is the number one feature of heart attack, left-sided chest pain going down the neck, but you can have angina equivalents. Angina is the medical term for chest pain. Some angina equivalents are discomfort going up the stairs, or not being able to walk as far as you used to, or just short of breath or winded when you're talking. That could be signs, or just progressively worsening. We have to be careful nowadays because we may get chest pain with the snow by shoveling snow. We have to be very careful. If we're not in shape, some people can develop chest pain going out in the snow and have some discomfort. So make sure your blood pressure and cholesterol are fine. We have a lot of diabetics in the community. And what is diabetes? That's the unequal amount of blood sugar in the bloodstream not going into the the body. Some people come in with uncontrolled blood sugars. Their blood sugars are 400, and they say, look, Dr. Anderson, I've lost weight, I'm doing well. Weight loss when you're diabetic is not a good thing, because that's an indication of you not getting enough nutrition into your cell. So what does that mean? The glucose is circulating in the bloodstream. The insulin takes the glucose and puts it into the cell to give the body more energy. That's how we blink, that's how we talk, that's why we have muscular movement activity, because that energy and glucose is turned from ATP to ADP. However, if you're diabetic and you don't have enough insulin to take the glucose into the cell, that's equivalent to going to the gas station, taking your car up to the pump, taking the gas hose out and putting the gasoline on the hood of the car, the seats, and the tire, because the gasoline is not going in the tank. Like diabetes, the glucose is not going into the cell. Diabetes, type 2 diabetes, the number one cause, is curable. I say that again, it's preventable and it's curable. We all go around looking for something called a hemoglobin A1C. The hemoglobin A1C, if you're diabetic, is the 90-day, 3-month average of your blood sugar. The American Diabetic Association recommends that the hemoglobin A1C be 7 or less. That's a 3-month average of a blood sugar of 154. We've all gone to our doctor's office And some of us have been told that we are pre-diabetic. Okay, Dr. Anderson, what is pre-diabetes? Well, if your A1C is around 6.8 or 6.7, or based on the laboratory values above 5.8, you are classified as pre-diabetic. However, if you're less than 7 and you're not on any diabetic medication, you are not classified as diabetic. You might be pre-diabetic, but that's a warning sign. And I do not like the term pre-diabetic because we're all pre-something. I'm pre-heart attack, pre-stroke, pre-car accident. We're pre-something, but the pre-diabetic notion, it's kind of a shot across the bow to let patients know that they have to get their act together, but that's just a mismatch in glucose, and you have to be very aware of that. So the 3 reasons, the 3 common causes or risk factors for heart attack: hypertension, diabetes, cholesterol. There's a number 4 is obesity. We all need to lose a little bit of weight here and there, myself included. When your BMI is greater than 30, that's qualified as obese, body mass index. The BMI, they say obesity is now equivalent to cigarette smoking or sedentary lifestyle, inactivity. So those are the 4 common causes and risk factors that will lead you to a heart attack. I'm now going to change over to the effects of the COVID vaccine virus on the heart. Okay, the COVID coronavirus vaccine virus, COVID-19, affects something called the A2 receptor blocker. Those are receptors that we have. They're in the blood vessel, but we also have found them in the kidney and in the lung. That virus attacks the A2 receptor, and that's where it goes to the lung first. It causes patches in the lungs and causes pneumonia. What happens is, I'll go to obesity that wasn't mentioned in the previous slide, but that's one of the number 1 causes of increased mortality and death in the coronavirus, because obese patients have less airway, less expansion of the lungs. They cannot expand, and they don't have much airway to intake. So when that virus attacks the lungs and causes a patchy infiltrate, therefore your oxygen level, you have desaturation, and you become decompensated, and you end up in cardiac arrest or having issues. But that's not the only place where the COVID virus attacks us. The COVID virus can also cause heart attacks. It can cause peripheral vascular disease, amputation. It can cause strokes, because as I mentioned, the A2 receptor blocker that the virus attacks is in our blood vessels, in our kidneys, and also can cause a clot in our leg, either the venous or the arterial portion. If it's venous, it can cause a blood clot to go to the lungs and have a pulmonary embolism. If it's arterial, it can give you a stroke or peripheral vascular disease. There also are post-COVID complications, post-cardiac complications of a COVID infection. I've had patients with arrhythmias, that means irregular heartbeats. I've had a patient with a heart attack. I've had patients with deep vein thrombosis. I've had patients with TIAs, and I've also had patients with brain fog. So when one gets diagnosed with a positive COVID test, if you're asymptomatic, they tell us to go home and quarantine yourself for 14 days. If you're sick, you may get antiviral medication called remdesivir. There's also a steroid, dexamethasone, that helps with recovery. But if you're asymptomatic and you're at home, you're quarantining, you had a positive test, but that virus is still replicating. It's still going on. It's unchecked. You take fluids, you take soup or sandwiches, you take yourself Tylenol, you try to get well, but what can we do to check that virus rapidly going through our household, our own body? How can we check it? Well, I've done some research through the Journal of Virology. You can look this up in the National Health Register or the public PubMed NIH library. There are 3 supplements. One major supplement is called quercetin, Quercetin. I will say it again, quercetin, Quercetin. Quercetin is a bioflavonoid. It is a molecule that gives all plants and vegetables their colors. The reds, the greens, the oranges, the blues, purple. And what this bioflavonoid has been shown to do is envelop the coronavirus, the little spike proteins. It actually blocks the coronavirus from replicating and entering the cell. There's thousands of articles on this. It's now getting more and more popular. But what I promote is that if you get sick or even for prevention, we're saying that quercetin will envelop the cell, not allow the coronavirus to multiply or replicate. And in these stores, you'll see quercetin with vitamin C. Vitamin C helps boost and prolongs the quercetin. Also, I promote green tea. Green tea extract in a vitamin form has antiviral properties, and it will also help stop the replication and arrest the virus. Number 3 is a vitamin called pycnogenol, Pycnogenol, pycnogenol. There is from the French maritime pine bark, and what pycnogenol does is decrease blood clots and allows for blood flow to go through the body. And so it prevents the extra side effects of the coronavirus, such as pulmonary embolisms, heart attacks, and deep vein thrombosis. Another thing that pycnogenol does, people don't know about, is if anyone's ever flown an airplane more than 3 or 4 hours, you get leg swelling, and some people end up with blood clots when they fly. But reports have shown and studies have shown that if you take pycnogenol 3 or 4 days before flying, you will not get that swelling or the blood clots. But I may have talked too much, but please, the most important thing is how to survive not just an infection in the ICU, but if you get infected and you're sent home to just quarantine on your own, you're by yourself. You have nothing to protect you but soup and Tylenol. These 3 supplements are proven in the NIH PubMed library. You can Google quercetin coronavirus, and you'll see over and over again from the journals of virology that this will protect the replication and spread of the virus. I hope I've given you too much, but I'll answer.
No, that is fantastic. I'm going to go out right now and get some of the quercetin. Is that something?
It's off the shelf. You can't, it's too late. No.
Oh, is it really?
But
where can we get this?
My family has been taking it for March of last year. I've sent my notes to Dr. Fauci, the deputy of NIH, and also Bill Gates. None of them have gotten back to me, but right. I've been in contact with about at least 100 patients that have coronavirus COVID. I've been tested 6 times. I've been negative, my whole family. My wife is an emergency medicine physician. I have 2 daughters in medical school. One just finished. They're in the front line. They have been tested. They have not. My father, who's 92 years old, came down with COVID 2 weeks ago. He was feeling run down. He lost his appetite. I immediately shipped out those supplements, and that not only mitigated the infection, he stayed home. He did not need oxygen, and now he's talking well. He said, "Son, I feel great," and he's out walking again. So
this is fantastic. So where do you get it online? Do you have
Go
to?
online. You can go online and order the vitamins, or the vitamin store, the vitamin shops.
Okay.
There's a vitamin shop. There's a couple of vitamin places, either
Okay.
in Waldorf or Virginia, but I'll mention those again in the question and answer if anybody wants to know.
Well, that's fantastic. Could you tell us a little bit about the creatine storm?
The creatine storm?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Maybe I'm not saying it correctly, but it's creatine storm. Maybe it's
The creatinine, that's from the kidneys. You can get the creatinine. What that does, like I said, the A2 receptors are in the, or angiotensin receptors are in the lungs, the kidneys, and also the vascular disease, the blood vessels. So some people can get creatinine storm, but I would have to look into that. I'll Google it, take a look and see what you're talking, or send me a text.
okay.
I'll do some research into that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anderson. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, great. And as we bring on our third presenter, Dr. Hilary Herbert Washington, very excited to have him here with us today. Dr. Hilary Herbert Washington has a very interesting story. Not only is he a physician, but he's also someone who had contracted COVID-19, and he will speak from the perspective not only as a physician, but someone who's actually gone through this exposure experience and come through to the other side, thank God. Dr. Hilary Herbert Washington is a family medicine specialist in District 8. Dr. Washington graduated in 1979 from Howard University College of Medicine. After a 7-year career in the U.S. Army Medical Corps, he completed a family medicine residency at Polyclinic Medical Center in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. He transitioned to the Oxon Hill, Fort Washington area in 1989 and opened a solo family practice in May of 1993 with his wife, Terry, a BSN and RN. They continue working together as a great team in District 8. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Hilary Herbert Washington.
Good evening, everyone. I am so honored to be able to sit down and speak with you, and for the invitation. I will first start my talk as a COVID-19 survivor. My wife and I were being very careful at the onset of this pandemic, of doing everything that we were supposed to do, wearing the mask and even the shields. And around Thanksgiving, we went out to a restaurant to buy our Thanksgiving meal. And unfortunately, we had to wait a while. And I believe that's where we contracted the virus. I don't think we caught it in the office, but around just the week before Christmas, I started feeling very tired. And my wife got concerned. And one day, I think 5 days before Christmas, I said to her, I am just going to lay down and go to sleep. And she looked at me and saw that I looked pale, but my lips were blue. And she said, oh no, you're going to the hospital. And she called the ambulance and they brought me over to Adventist Fort Washington ED, where I know all the ER docs. And they took me right in, and they said, oh, they told my wife, you got him here just on time, because my oxygen saturation was very low. And they pumped me up with the oxygen. I got all of the medications that you hear about. Dr. Anderson mentioned the remdesivir and the Decadron and the antibiotics. The CAT scan showed that both of my lungs had pneumonia. And so I was admitted, and I spent 7 days in the hospital with excellent care, and with the help of the nurses and the physicians and the technicians. And of course, the Heavenly Father smiling down on me, I recovered, and I was able to go home. And I was on oxygen for 2 weeks at home. And finally, the nurses came and the therapists came and worked with me. And I'm building up my strength. And I have resumed coming to the office and doing virtual calls, seeing a patient every now and then. And so I am on the mend And I'm just very grateful. We have heard during this pandemic about the inflammatory process and how the virus seems to trigger that off. And Monique, I think you were referring to the cytokine storm, okay? And this is an overreaction of the immune system when it is stimulated by the virus. And cytokines are part of the normal immune response to infection and attack on the body. And they are very important, along with so many other players from the immune system, to include the antibodies and we hit interleukins, IL, so on and so forth, that keep us healthy. But too much inflammation and tissues swell up and they're not able to function the way they do. You may get the infiltrates in the lungs, the airways, the bronchial tubes will swell up and oxygen cannot pass through them and get into the little air sacs called the alveoli. It can affect the kidneys and the blood vessels and all the tissues that are involved and that we are finding out are being affected by the COVID-19 virus. So I wanted to talk about inflammation. This is something that not only relates to the virus itself, but even before the pandemic, because it's part of the heart disease issue that Dr. Anderson referred to, when the plaque ruptures and bursts because of inflammation, and it constricts the arteries. And if it constricts the coronary arteries, of course, we're talking about a heart attack. If it occurs in the brain, we're talking about a stroke. If it occurs in the lower extremities, we could be talking about gangrene and the potential for losing a toe or even a limb. So inflammation is a very big deal. So what can we do about it? It's important to have lifestyles that encourage or prevent the occurrence of inflammation. And that would include, the most basic things. One, starting with our diets, avoiding a diet, foods that can trigger inflammation. And what would that be? That would be keeping sweets and processed sugar to a minimum. We're always hearing about a low-fat diet, okay? And not a lot of folks are talking about a low sugar diet, but that's equally important to patients of inflammation, chronic long-term inflammation, as well as keeping a low-fat diet. So sugars and sweets, foods that contain a lot of sugars are not good, and they can slow down the immune system. They can slow down the white blood cells and some of the other players in the immune system that protect us from outside attack. Secondly, of course, we all know about a low-fat diet, and the low fat, especially the low saturated fat diet. So that would include some of the meats that we are very fond of, and switching over to meats that are less fatty. So of course, the high saturated fat foods, including the red meats, and not just the selection of the meats, but how they are cooked, how they are prepared, can increase the fat in the diet. And also that may be an inflammatory marker or something that would increase inflammation in the body. So if we prepare them in a manner, we talk about fried foods, deep frying, as opposed to baking or broiling, then we are increasing the saturation of the fat and causing them to be more inflammatory than if we bake them if we select the lower fatty parts of the meat, like the chicken breast, like the fish, the lean cuts of the red meat, these are choices that can help prevent heart attacks, strokes, and the peripheral arterial disease that Dr. Anderson referred to. Exercise, of course. And when we think of exercise, I think many people envision and straining and struggling and being in pain after all said and done. But the most basic exercise and beneficial exercise is just to walk. The ADA and many other medical organizations recommend that we exercise. And if we break that down, that's only 22 minutes per day, enough that you can get your heart rate up and maybe break out into a little sweat. But if you want to do that 3 times a week, that's 50 minutes. 5 times a week, that's 30 minutes. But get in those 150 minutes of activity per week to strengthen the heart, help to burn up some of the excess sugar and keep the weight down. So that's also important. Minimizing stress. And in the last few years, I have come to recognize just how significant stress is a player in terms of our overall health. And I've had patients who've been stressed out at the job, resulting in high blood pressure and other health issues that previously we didn't acknowledge. And I think that's very important, especially in our communities where people of color years, and we now have to acknowledge that it does play a role in some of the diseases that we see in our community. So this is, again, where play a role in my stress. Some people, and many other things that help relieve stress. So that's very. Still, there are individuals who smoke, and reducing smoking or not smoking can be a big boon to the health. And then also minimizing alcohol consumption can be very beneficial. These are just very basic things. Water. I think that's something that most Americans need to do. Water. My rule of that I tell my patients is take your body weight in pounds, divide it by half or 2, and whatever you get of ounces of water you should drink a day. And I like to give them a visual and say, okay, to buy a ounce bottle of water. Okay, that's the standard water bottle, and that usually sometimes 6 bottles of water per day. And people say, well, I don't like to drink water. Well, if you don't drink water, lose some weight and you won't. So, but water consumption is also a very big problem. Rest, getting enough rest, also not just a certain number of hours of rest, but how would say high quality rest or high quality sleep. And many individuals are affected with sleep apnea or just insomnia in general, going to bed too late and not getting enough hours of sleep. So it's important to have good sleep hygiene. I think in this generation that we're in, with all the electronics and the social media that We get a lot of stimulation from our computers, from our telephones, from all those electronic gadgets, and that goes to a part of the brain that causes excess stimulation and doesn't allow the brain to slow down. So studies have shown there's a part of the brain called the RAS. We know it as the reticular activating system. And when there's too much light coming in and too much stimulation coming in from our electronic gadgets, we are not able to quiet down and get to a point where we can get good rest. So those are all very basic things. Vitamins can be very helpful as we have learned during this pandemic. And again, thank you, Dr. Anderson, for bringing out those vitamins, the quercetin, again, Quercetin, quercetin. So I want to reiterate that, the pill. And I'm familiar with it, but to help calm him down when he was in middle school. But ICNO, okay? There are two supplements, vitamins that probably most people are not familiar with, but the ones that we all know, we know the vitamins C. The vitamin D, our bones and absorbing calcium, but during this pandemic, we have found it to be very important, instrumental in supporting the immune system. The elderberry has been very important. And of course, the zinc, which is a mineral, not a vitamin, but when I was in the hospital, I was surprised that they not only gave me the prescription medicines, but they brought in the vitamin C, they brought in the zinc, they even brought in the berry, they brought in the vitamin D3. So all these are good supplements and good support while and if you have the virus, but also our contraction of the virus. My wife and I were taking pycnogenol every day, and when we ran out, that's when we got sick. So I do believe in it. So, but these are things, many of these supplements are not at the CVS necessarily. People may have to go to the health food stores, the Moms, the Whole Foods, those kinds of places to find these supplements, but they are available, and I definitely recommend that people start taking them as prevention for the pandemic, but also as anti-inflammatory medications. Yes. To not just stop the pandemic, but prevent some of the other diseases that are scourges of our community. Dr. Anderson, looked like you had a question.
No, I was saying amen.
Okay, all right. So I don't know if I ran over time, but I hope that was helpful and get some basic instructions to reinforce some of the basic things that we need to do to maintain good heart health, but also prevent our exposure to the coronavirus.
Thank you so much, Dr. Washington. Appreciate it. You know, I wonder if because you were taking all of these supplements and minerals ahead of time, when you did get COVID, you got through it.
Yes, I do
would have been
believe
the
that
case,
helped.
had you not.
Yeah, I believe it helped, and the exercise, because I'm a bike rider.
Yes, you
and
are.
Felton has seen me on the road, and he's threatened to run me off, but I do believe.
Well, only because you had a Captain America uniform on.
I do believe that was very beneficial, and you know, helped my lung health and everything like that. Yes.
Oh, most definitely. Yes. These those, like you said, free antioxidants, free radical scavengers, and the vitamin D as well as the quercetin, they have a lot of hydroxyl groups. As we know in
Yes.
chemistry and medical school, those hydroxyl groups go out and they help decrease inflammation. If you look at the molecule of vitamin D, as well as pycnogenol and quercetin, they have a lot of hydroxyl groups to donate and decrease inflammation. And that's very important for decreasing inflammation and promoting health, good health. Absolutely right.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, thank you again. We will definitely have questions at the end. We have questions already queued up, but I want to make sure we get through our speakers first. So thank you again, Dr. Washington, and so glad that you, your wife, and your daughter are still here. We appreciate your willingness to be transparent by sharing your family's COVID battle. You know, we're happy that you've given us some tools to put in our toolbox so that we can survive in a healthier way with whatever we might face. So thank you. Our last but not least presenter is Shakiera Hockaday-Bey. Shakiera Hockaday-Bey is a holistic coach and owner of District 8's Herbal Infusion. Herbal Infusion offers products and services that treat the whole you, your mind, your soul, and with what nature provides. Shakiera helps customers with their specific needs, directing them to cleansing products, aromatherapy, herbs, vitamins, herbal teas, and natural body products. My personal favorite is an apple cider healing tonic, custom made by Shakiera. We have labeled it Jesus Juice. Herbal Infusion is also a diverse spa in Maryland that offers massages, body wraps, body scrubs, reflexology, aqua chi, ear candling, colon hydrotherapy, and holistic consultations. And the reason she's here is because we believe that some of these techniques could be helpful in keeping you healthy as well. So please join me in welcoming Shakiera Hockaday-Bey.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. And thank you, Dr. Anderson and Dr. Washington. You guys have made this so much simpler for me because the supplements that you talk about, I do carry it. I do have it in the store and I'm right in the neighborhood. I'm right behind the hospital in the shopping center where the Safeway is. And we have all supplements, herbs, as well as the services that you mentioned. So just listening, all of the supplements that you were talking about are ones that will help you, not just for the virus, but for the heart as well. So you're absolutely right. And it makes a difference in what we do on a daily basis and how we take the supplements. You know, we talked about the quercetin, the green tea, the pycnogenol, the vitamin D, the zinc, and the elderberry. And those are all will help you with your immune system to help fight to combat any kind of virus or bacteria in your body. So they're wonderful products. What I would like to add is when you're taking extra supplements to prepare your body to fight something, you want to take in addition to a regular multivitamin. So you have your multivitamin as your core, which will have some vitamin C, you know, it'll have your vitamin D, it'll have your vitamin E, your B complexes and things like that, but it's not going to give you enough to help to have that barrier to protect your body more. So take your multivitamins and don't substitute it for these products, but then take your extra on top of it. Most of your vitamins and minerals are going to be water soluble. So you want to take them 4 hours later. So if you're taking quercetin, take your multivitamin in the morning, take your quercetin in the middle of the day, and then take it again at night, because that's one of the things that is water soluble. And you're trying to protect your body and to fight what's going on with us around here. So you want to keep it in your system so your body can use it as it's needed. Same thing goes with the elderberry. Elderberry or sambuca is another name for it. And that's so popular. In the beginning of last year, when this pandemic started, I had such a hard time keeping that in stock because everybody was going crazy. They wanted elderberry, they wanted Irish moss, they were getting all this, bombarded with all this information, and they were running to get them. So it was difficult last year, but now the manufacturers have gotten in control with it. So we do have them in stock. What I would like to add is turmeric. You know, we're talking about inflammation and how to get rid of inflammation in the system and protect it. And I know our bodies, it's a way that we protect ourselves. Our body produces inflammation to help to protect our organs or protect the vessels and things like that. So we have good inflammation and bad inflammation. Turmeric, and actually NIH has done a lot of studies on this. It actually helps with inflammation, the oxidation that the inflammation causes. It helps to reduce it and it helps to get more oxygen. Turmeric is a wonderful antioxidant as well. Their common name or the technical name of the substance that's in turmeric is curcumin. And you'll see that it says, take curcumin. That is turmeric. And there's so many different ways you can take turmeric. You can make it, put it into your tea. You can take it in a capsule. They have the powder form. You can cook with it. It's a very good tasting spice. It is considered a spice. It's the main ingredient that's in curry. So if you do a lot of curry powders, you're going to have a lot of turmeric in there. But turmeric is one of the things I think we should all be taking during this time frame. Vitamin E, a powerful antioxidant in your system, great for your circulation and for the blood flow as well. It's going to help with the vessels and to help with getting the blood flow better to the heart and for the heart muscle. One of the herbs that is popular for the heart muscle is hawthorn. That actually helps with the heart itself. And in Germany, they're actually using hawthorn for congenital heart failure. That's one of the things that they're using in the hospitals to treat that after you've had that problem. So hawthorn is something we want to look at. Be careful with it though, because you do want to check the medications that you're already on if you have heart problems and make sure there isn't an interaction with it. So any of these supplements that I'm suggesting, definitely check with your doctor to make sure that it is proper, because we don't have just one issue sometimes. But you're on high blood pressure medication, then you're on, you may have problems with your kidney, your creatinine levels going up, so you've taken stuff to help with to protect the kidney, or and then you may have diabetes. So when we're talking about supplements, just make sure that you're looking at the whole picture of what it is that's going on in your body. Same thing like when you have a problem in your body, when you go to the doctors or you come to me, we look at the whole body, because that's just the symptom. But what is the underlying problem that's causing you to have that symptom? So be careful and don't run out there and say, okay, I want this, this, and this because they've talked about it. Make sure it is the right one for you and your system out there. Of course, we have the Master Tonic, which Miss Monique Anderson Walker talks about all the time. This I am not the one who created this, but I wish I did. It is a wonderful product. This has turmeric in there that I was talking about for the inflammation. And if you can see the color of it, I don't know if you can see the bottom of it. It's got so much of the turmeric that it settles on the bottom. So you do want to shake this up completely. This also has garlic. And garlic is wonderful for the immune system. It's wonderful for bacteria in the body, but it's also good for the heart and good for your circulation. Garlic is also good for thinning the blood. So if you have problems, it's a wonderful substitute for that. So this does have the garlic in here. It has cinnamon and cloves, which has been known to help with your sugar levels in the blood, to help with diabetes. And it's got the Bragg's apple cider vinegar. So the Bragg's apple cider vinegar not just helps with digestion and circulation, but it helps to balance your pH level in your system. So it actually helps your body to heal itself once you can get the balance between the acidity and the alkalinity from the blood flow or all the fluids in the body versus the organs in the body. This product, I think everybody should be taking it. I've been doing this for about 5 years now, and it makes such a big difference. Not just, you don't have to have a medical problem to take it, because it gives you energy. It helps with circulation. It's going to help with gas and bloating. And we were talking about weight loss and taking care of our system. This actually helps to break down your foods better, so your body's able to digest it and eliminate it better. Because one of the problems is if we're not getting rid of the bowels, if it's not moving the way it should, then we have all this toxins that's in our system, which will suppress our immune system, because 70% of our immune system is in the gut area. So you can take your supplements, you can take your medications, but if your body isn't, the whole digestive tract from the mouth all the way down to the anus isn't working the way it should, then you're going to have problems right in here. That's going to cause more problems with the blood pressure, the diabetes, with the kidneys. So you want to make sure that you're flowing. Like Dr. Anderson said, water is so important. Our diet, what we're eating on a daily basis. Don't take the supplements or your medications and then go have fried foods. Don't go and have all the carbs that we love to eat as Americans. We want the donuts, we want the bagels, we want the breads, we want the cheese. We go to Subway, we go to, all the fast food places. And even at home, we tend to, for the to-go, We have the frozen chicken nuggets in our freezer. So we just pop that because our lifestyles are too busy. So be careful of taking the supplement and then eating the wrong stuff. So you're not really getting the benefits from the supplements that you should get because you're covering it up with all of the junk, which causes more mucus and inflammation in your system. So, it's like in one hand, you're doing the right thing. In the other hand, you're saying, oh no, let's forget this. And then you want to know why it's not working. So we have to make conscious efforts and a conscious decision to say, okay, this is what's going on with my body. I've been to my doctor. He says, this is what I need to take. He's giving me the medication or she's giving me the medications. This is the supplements. But just taking it is not going to be enough. You have to make sure you're doing your part in it and exercising and walking, at least walking. Even if you can't go outside, walk up and down the stairs, walk around your house. All of that makes a difference in the way the supplements get into your system and your body absorbs it because you're getting your cardio workout, you're getting the blood flow, you're getting more oxygen to your cells. And more than anything else, if you're getting the oxygen, it makes such a big difference in your whole immune system. The oxygen is going to help your body to absorb the supplements better into your system. So take your supplements, but also do the other things that makes a difference with it. Um, Elderberry, Dr. Anderson mentioned as well, Dr. Washington. This is the elderberry in a gummy form. They have it in the liquid form. They have it in a tea form. This particular one already has your vitamin C in there and your zinc combined together. So you wouldn't need to take this and then 2 other supplements. You've got 3 of them combined together with this. And of course, it's water soluble, so you want to take this at least 2 or 3 times a day. One of the other things that's very popular in my store is by Irwin Naturals. It is called the Pure Defense Mushroom 8. So it's got the different mushrooms like the chaga, shavati mushroom, shiitake mushroom, reishi mushroom. But this also gives you your zinc, your vitamin C. It does have some echinacea and it does have your elderberry. So it's a good combination of all of them because they work on different levels in your system. So same thing with this. You would take this at least twice a day if you're doing something to prevent it. And they're liquid in the capsules. So you can puncture the capsules and take the liquid because it gets into your system better. The other thing is when you're taking supplements and you're taking medications, you want to take them at separate times. You don't want them in the system, in the stomach at the same time. So try to take your supplements at least an hour different from when you're taking your medications. So that will make a difference in the way your body absorbs your medication to get the benefits from it. And then when you take the supplements, so your body is able to utilize it differently in the body. This pandemic that we're in truly has touched me. It's affected me personally. I've had people who have lost that are family members, and I've had members in the last 6 months that have come down with it and have ended up in the hospital. So it's what I find when people come into the store with this is that they're coming in out of fear. They're scared of what's going to happen. Oh my gosh, I was sneezing, I'm coming down with something. I went and took the test. What am I going to do? And we can prepare ourselves. We can fight this. Like Dr. Washington said, he was taking pycnogenol on a daily basis. And then once he stopped taking it, who knows if that was the reason why his immune system, had that little crack in there that it was able to swivel into it. So let's don't walk in fear of this. We do have things that we can do on a daily basis. We do have supplements that we can take. There are things that we can do to prevent as much as anything else. It's no difference than when you go into your car and you look around to make sure, you're fine and you're in the right frame of mind, but you don't know if the car next to you is, or that driver is intoxicated or, is going through, has just found out something dramatic and can't concentrate. You have to be surrounded with your area. Same with your body. Pay attention to it. If you're feeling tired and exhausted, rest. Go get checked out. Take the time to rest because your body needs the time to recuperate. It needs the time to rejuvenate itself. So you can take the supplements, but if you're not taking the time to rest and you're not drinking your water and you're not getting rid of the stress, which is the number one thing. I had a young man that came into my store today. He's 24 years old and he's borderline high blood pressure all of a sudden.
Hmm.
He works at the Capitol. He's a police officer at the Capitol. You know, so when him and his doctor talked about it yesterday, that's the only reason. He's physically fit, has no other issues going on. And you know, so it's the stress of his job.
Yeah.
So he needed to take time off to get himself together, to get back to the gym, you know, to do the extra that he needs to do. So we have the vitamin C, we have the zinc, we have the elderberry, we have the vitamin D, we have the quercetin, we have the green tea, you have the pycnogenol, you have the master tonic, you have the elderberry.
Mm.
Take your supplements, but also take the time to rejuvenate your body, to rest, to get enough sleep, to get enough water in your system. And when I say water, I'm not talking about drinking sodas or you can get the iced tea and you're consuming that water. It doesn't work the same way to hydrate the body or to filter toxicity out of the system. Water, just plain water. If you need to put something in there, put some lemons or put some ginger or some mint leaves, which is not going to take away as much of the properties as if you're taking it from some kind of tea. And be careful with your caffeine intake because caffeine is going to constrict your capillaries. It's going to cause your body more acidic. You know, so you have right now we're trying to keep our body as on a super mode. You know, we're trying to get it where it needs to be to protect ourselves because it's not going anywhere. The mutations are coming, you know, and with each mutation, it takes time for us to figure out how it's going to affect our bodies, how it's going to work. So let's protect our organs by taking the supplements that we need. I also, the services that we offer are fantastic. I truly believe, like I was talking about with the colon, cleaning the colon makes a difference. It makes such a big difference. So we do colonics. We have started back our services. Um, it's not invasive, you know, and it's not something that's painful, but you feel lighter, you feel better. You're giving your body a jump start and your immune system a jump start because you're getting rid of stuff that's in the colon. So I'm in Fort Washington, right in the neighborhood. I have used the hospital on more than one occasion. And I tell you, I was there in the ER in December. And there's such a big difference in the feel than what it was a couple of years ago. It's the ER, everybody was fantastic. They were great. The energy felt great. It was clean. They took their time, you know. So I'm thankful. I'm thankful for all of the changes that are happening in our neighborhood because I live here. So thank you guys so much for having me on.
Well, thank you, Shakiera. Appreciate you. And just so that you all know, she owns Herbal Infusions, which is located at 952 Swan Creek Road in Fort Washington. It's literally where the Safeway is. It is at that corner close to Silvestre's. I'm sure you all know where that is. But anyway, thank you. I really appreciate it. You brought up some great points about keeping our body in balance. And I know that I have been on this kick of drinking pH water. I don't know if it helps, but mentally it makes me feel like I'm doing something extra. Can you tell me if that does anything? And in addition to that, probiotics. Is it important to take a probiotic? Should we look at foods that are probiotic like kimchi, more foods that have gone through the process of fermenting?
Yeah, fermentation.
Can you speak to that?
So I personally believe we all should take probiotics because it helps to balance the flora in the intestinal system itself. But not just the but the pre and postbiotics as well, because the prebiotics, from what I understand, helps with diabetes. When the glucose is in the blood, if it doesn't have the prebiotic too on with it, your body doesn't metabolize it properly, so then the glucose stays in the bloodstream longer. So the pre, pro, and postbiotics, I think, are great. It's good to get it in the food. However, when you get it encapsulated in an encoded capsule, it doesn't dissolve in the stomach, which is very acidic, but it goes into the intestinal system, which is where you want the pre and probiotics to be. So I personally prefer to have an encapsulated pre or probiotic to take in that form. It's great for your digestive system as well and your immune system for those. And foods, like you said, the kimchi, sauerkraut, any kind of fermented food is going to give you some of that in there with it. And we talked about the water. So pH water. um, like I mentioned earlier about the acidity and the alkalinity, we are so bombarded with foods and drinks that we take that's very acidic in our system. So what happens is everything becomes acidic, the organs and the fluids in our body. What we're trying to do is we want to have a balance. So your organs should be acidic, but the fluids in your body should be alkaline. So there should be a
Flush.
exactly
Yeah.
a structure so it can go through the barrier to come to flush out. So that's why pH water is very important, in my opinion, that you should take it because it does help with some of that acidity that we're dealing with on a daily basis. And room temperature. It's not hot, it's not warm, but room temperature is better for your system to absorb it. It doesn't put as much of a shock in there, but definitely, and they're alkaline in foods as well, but definitely pH water.
Is there a way we can create more alkalinity in our water without buying the expensive pH water?
I have a filtration thing, and there's no energy or electrical things. It's all by gravity. It's called Zen water, and it sits on my counter, and it goes through the 5 filtration system. But it has mineral stones in the bottom, and that alkalizes the water. Another way is to use Himalayan sea salt to alkalize it because it's the minerals that you're trying to get into the water.
Okay. Well, great. I know there are a lot of questions out here, so I want to make sure I get to those. And thank you, Eunmee, that if we want some kimchi, welcome to your refrigerator. We might have to take you up on that. Let's see. Yes, Dr. Anderson.
One thing about pH water, and the body is naturally pH balanced. And so, of course, the stomach has a low pH, which is acidic, but the body's natural pH, as Dr. Washington and I know, it's at 7.4.
Yes.
And they're natural buffers in the kidneys and the vascular system that will correct your own pH body. So I'm not one to believe that drinking pH water it may help digestion but as far as the body will always naturalize itself to a pH of 7.4.
Okay.
So there are some benefits from different minerals and ions and supplements, but the body will always, you cannot change your body's pH unless you take in too much carbon dioxide or other different chemicals in your body that will put you at risk of death. Just a point of medical information.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And the truth is, I think a lot of us get caught up in certain, fads, and we just kind of figure out what's something we should pay attention to and what's something we should, steer from.
But you can
Probiotics.
naturally. Yes. Okay.
With the probiotics, what are your thoughts on same with the probiotics or?
Oh, probiotics are very good for digestion, and the term probiotic comes from, we talk about antibiotics, right? So antibiotics kills germs, bacteria. So the body has the GI tract has natural germs to help with digestion called the normal flora of the gut. And when we take antibiotics, we end up killing the normal flora, and you end up with a disease called Clostridium difficile or C. difficile. And that can cause horrible GI conditions, and a lot of people end up dying from it. And so when someone comes in with a diagnosis of already been on antibiotics for a while and diarrhea, we say look for C. diff or Clostridium difficile, and usually that is the culprit. But in order to counteract the antibiotics effect, we will take a probiotic to restore the normal flora of the gut, of the GI system.
How long does that take? I mean, I take a probiotic daily. Is that necessary, or is it something that replenishes itself within a first couple?
Sometimes it's necessary if you have chronic GI issues, gas, bloating, sometimes not regular and constipated. You can restore the normal flora and keep it going, and it will help and promote the digestion. But if you have a normal GI system and you don't have any issues, I don't think it's going to be that much.
I would like to add that much of the vegetables, the green leafy vegetables, can
Yes.
do the same thing as probiotics. The problem, of course, is that in our culture, we don't eat them. And so it disturbs the gut flora, as Dr. Anderson said. And of course, we are also a culture that we like to order up antibiotics. And a lot of the issues that we have don't necessarily need antibiotics, but when we take them, someone has said it's like setting off an atomic bomb in our GI tract.
Right.
And everything is destroyed, and then we have to restore the normal environment. And that could take weeks or
Yes.
even months, depending on the damage that was done by the antibiotics or by the underlying condition that caused the disturbance in the gut.
So should probiotics, as a rule, be taken short term?
I think that is something that depends on the condition. If you were previously healthy, maybe you took some antibiotics, or you had some type of viral infection in your gut, and the gut flora was disturbed, then the answer would be, yeah, it would be a short-term situation. But if there are other more severe gut problems, and the body is not able to restore the normal flora or environment, then yes, probiotics may be an everyday thing.
But probiotics cannot harm us if we take it on a daily basis. It's
No,
something,
they can't.
right?
Right.
So
I would agree with it.
Yeah, something
I
that
agree.
I would agree with it. Yeah,
Not harmful. No.
Okay. Let me ask this question about mucus.
not harmful. Yeah.
Rosie Pointer had directed this question, and if you all could just help me with it. Many supplements have lactose or other milk byproducts. What is the best way to avoid the complications? I guess for those who are lactose intolerant.
If you're lactose intolerant, then you should avoid foods with lactose-free foods. Mucus gets a bad name, but mucus is part of our immune system, and it serves a very important function, which is to trap the invaders that get into our respiratory tract or our gut and would then enter into our tissues, but because of the mucus, they are trapped and the body is able to expel it. Excessive mucus usually means there's been some disturbance in the respiratory tree, maybe an infection or in the gut. And again, in individuals who are lactose intolerant, they of course should avoid it so that they are not suffering from the effects of being lactose intolerant.
Okay. This is another question. Latoya Crump had a question regarding colonics. How many colonics are needed to clean out your system?
Well, you really don't want to
Towards your Shakiera.
Yeah, the goal is not to completely clean out your system, but it's to help to aid it, to get things moving. So the IAC, the board that oversees colon hydrotherapy in the United States, suggests that you should do at least 3 colonics twice a year. But most people, when they come to me, most of them just need 1 twice a year, just kind of like a tune-up or a cleanup, because you have to be careful with overdoing it. Your colon is a muscle. So you want that muscle to do its job on its own. So it's just if you've got chronic problems, so if somebody's not having bowel movements on a daily basis or even a weekly basis, then yeah, you probably want to do 3 of them every 6 months. But for the average person, you know, 1 every 6 months is perfectly fine. And can I say something as well about the lactose in supplements? If you're looking at supplements and you're lactose intolerant, there are lines of supplements that are vegan that you can, so you can still take supplements and not worry about that affecting anything in the intestinal system.
All right, well, fantastic. I want to thank our guests. We're at the 8 o'clock hour already. I can't believe this time flew by, but we'll have to do this again. Thank you so much to our presenters today. This information is so valuable, and we have recorded this, so we will definitely put it back out there for people who couldn't get on today to check it out at another time. Thank you, and for those of you all who are out there, thank you for checking in with us. Stay informed. That's so important. Stay safe and stay healthy. And we're here for you. We'll be having a series of these moving forward seminars to educate you on how to keep your mind, body, and spirit in balance. Mental health has been a big focus of ours. We will be getting back to those mental health seminars in short order as well. But we recognize all of this works in balance. Your mind, body, and spirit are one. To de-stress, as we learned today, and we've been hearing for a while, is paramount. There's so much that your mind is controlling, whether it's taking you to a positive place or a negative place. What we probably all want to do is look at certainly being informed, but also looking at meditating and finding whatever it's going to take for us to find that balance, whatever that is, prayer, what have you. I don't want to force my views on you, but whatever it is that is getting you to that balance, seek it. Thank you again for joining us. And I want to thank my staff and of course, thank our presenters for today. You all have a wonderful evening.
Thank you for the
Good night.
invitation. Okay, good night.
Hilary, take care, sir.
Thank you all so much. This was a great evening.
Okay,
Thank you, guys.
okay.
Take
Thank
care.
All right.
you.
Thank you.
All
Good
right.
night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Very informative, thank you.
You said you got some things that